Forget everything you think you know about the NFC South, because by tarnation, you better have them cattle corralled, those trailers hitched, those barn doors closed, because we're heading into a tornado going into 2025. And everybody thinks that it's just a two-team race, but there's a third team, unsuspected. If the cards go well, they may take the division. But first, we got to head straight into the eye of the storm for them Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's go. Oh boy. Baker Mayfield had himself a career year. 41 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, career highs in almost every statistical category.
Impressive. Most impressive.
The question is, can he repeat it? And a lot of experts are saying this is the peak. He ain't gonna do any better and he's gonna regress from here.
But you know, the toughest thing is to love somebody who has done something mean to you.
No respect at all for Baker.
I don't get no respect.
And I've seen a lot of quarterbacks have one good season, then fall off the face of the earth. But Baker has a chance to shed that label, and I'm hoping he does, because I really like Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I hope that he produces similar numbers, and they're gonna have the offensive line to do it, because Tristan Wirfs is one of the best offensive tackles in the league. A 4.7% pressure rate, that's second lowest in the NFL.
You shall not pass!
Then you got the whole core of the offensive line playing 61.5% of the snaps. And then in week 13 to 18, 96.3% of the time. And if they stick together, don't get injured, they're going to open up a lot of holes for the running game and protect Baker. It's going to all rest on those receivers, though. They drafted Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, but you got Chris Godwin, who had an ankle injury and an ACL injury in 2021, and Mike Evans, who didn't look like the same player that he has been. He's kept the streak. We'll see if that keeps going, but that's a big question, whether or not those receivers can stay healthy. Another huge question is that defense. I know they had the number 4 rush defense, and they were able to get pressure with Vita V and Kalijah Kancey and other blitz schemes, but the back end of that defense needs to improve, because the safety group was ranked 29th on Pro Football Focus. They're going to have to clean that up. And I know they made a lot of personnel moves to try and do that, like Tyke Smith moving to strong safety. He's going to have to transition and make an immediate impact. They do have one of the top easiest schedules going into 2025. Only 4 playoff teams from last year. They're playing the Houston Texans week 2, Philadelphia Eagles week 4, and then weeks 11 and 12, the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams.
Please get my name right when I call you on the phone.
And I think if Baker Mayfield plays at a high level, the offense is humming, the defense is playing better, the back end's playing as well as they can win 11 or 12 games. But if Baker regresses a bit, if the defense just isn't there to cover it up, well, they're winning 7, 8, or 9 games. But with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking for Baker Mayfield to continue his success, the team down in Georgia is asking the question, is Michael Penix Jr. the answer for all of our quarterback problems?
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir!
Now look, Atlanta's got offensive talent. Bijan Robinson exploded in 2024, almost 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. You got Drake London, who's a big athletic receiver who can go up for those jump balls. Over 100 catches, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Then you got Darnell Mooney, who was signed last year, can stretch the field, take some pressure off London. Not only that, he's got one of the best offensive lines in the game. They were ranked number 1 in Pro Football Focus, along with the Detroit Lions at 88.3 overall grade. And let's not forget Chris Lidstrom, who had a grade of 93.5. That was the highest in the NFL for guards. He has all the weapons. He's got the offensive line, but we got to see him more consistent in that intermediate and short timing route game. That's going to help you win. You don't got to be Superman the whole time. You don't have to throw it downfield like it's Madden. But I think he's got a great coach in Raheem Morris. He won a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams in 2022 as the defensive coordinator. And offensive coordinator Zach Robinson returns after putting up a top 10 overall offense. Jeff Ulbrich was signed as their defensive coordinator. He had a top 5 defense with the New York Jets of all teams.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
That's going to help their defense because their pass rush was dreadful. 31st in sacks with 31, a 5% sack rate. That's also 31. And while the rest of their EPA wasn't bottom of the barrel, they were still pretty bad. They were ranked 18th in the league. And the unit that felt it the most was that defensive backfield because Jesse Bates, although he's really good, he was 8th amongst safeties. They gave up a 69.9% completion percentage. That's really darn high. And outside of AJ Terrell, that cornerback unit suffered. Mike Hughes was very inconsistent, although he had a 71 overall grade. And D. Alfred, their nickel corner, had his worst season, a 70.2 completion percentage against. Now I know in the draft they got Jalen Walker in the first round and James Pierce Jr. and signed Leonard Floyd. But this defense really needs to step up its pass rush and its coverage because in the long run, it ain't gonna be good. Now, they were really close to winning that division in 2024, even with all the question marks, but I don't think they're gonna be able to sustain that level of success if Michael Penix Jr. doesn't play good, if Kirk Cousins comes in and plays bad, and the defense plays really bad. It ain't gonna happen this year. I see this team at their best winning 11, 10 games. But if everything falls apart and Michael Penix Jr. is not the answer and Kirk Cousins, well, we've seen what happened with him. They're going to be a bottom feeder team, like a 5, 6, 7 wins at the most. And while the Atlanta Falcons have a little bit of hope going into the season, the New Orleans Saints offer no hope for fans. It's time for you guys to dust off those paper bags and call yourself the Aints because it's going to be a long 2025.
Sometime when you least expect it, you realize that someone loved you. And that means someone can love you again.
And don't worry, Saints fans. I'm not going to trash your team. I'm going to try and uplift them.
Don't worry, buddy. You're doing fine.
They still got Alvin Kamara, who's 30 years old, but he still had 950 yards last season, a 4.2 yards per carry average, and 6 touchdowns in 14 games. He had 68 receptions, 543 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. That's actually really good production from him, even though he missed a few games. They're definitely going to be relying on him with the questions at quarterback. Chris Olave was good in his rookie season, only played 8 games in 2024, had 32 receptions for 400 yards. They signed Brandon Cooks, who played for Dallas last season and had a down year. But the problem is who's going to be throwing him the ball. Spencer Rattler, we saw what he can do last year, and it wasn't pretty. And Tyler Shuck is a big question mark. Is he going to make an impact? Or are you guys going to have to go back to the drawing board and go draft a quarterback #1 overall? Because that's where you guys are at this point in time. Despite many red flags about the quarterback situation and the offense going into 2025, the Saints were middle of the pack on defense, allowing only 23.4 points per game. That's 19th. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. They did have 17 turnovers, which wasn't that great. It was 17th, but you know, it's better than nothing.
Well, at least I still have my personality.
Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis are returning. We'll see how they're playing because they're getting up there in age. I think they're like 35 or 37, in between that range. They got a new defensive coordinator who was first in total yards and points per game in Brandon Staley. And they got Kellen Moore, who just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what the plan is. I know he can adapt to different styles of offense. We saw that last year. Now, with all of that said, it's looking really grim for you guys.
That's a terrible idea.
We don't know what's going to happen. There may not be a miracle where the Saints win the division somehow. And this might be a one-and-done year for Kellen Moore. And that's unfortunate because he's not going to get the chance to build anything. Honestly, this is a team with a lot of cap problems, and it's been a while. They got expensive contracts with 30-year-old Alvin Kamara, Demario Davis, who's 37, Cameron Jordan, who's 37. A lot of expensive deals. They've been pushing a lot of money back. Next year, in 2026, they're going to be over the cap by $19 million, and they've got $49 million of dead cap. That means they're paying players that are no longer on the team. There's not a lot of wiggle room. They're going to have to build through the draft, hopefully, and cut a lot of people next year and the year after that to have even the slightest chance in 2027. And I'm going to try to be nice with this prediction, but this is being generous. They may win 5 games this year. Their floor is way more likely 2 or 3 games won and fishing for that number 1 pick in the draft. Now we've covered a lot of ground in the NFC South, and it's probably not a surprise anymore that the Carolina Panthers are my dark horse team.
What?
A lot of stuff is going to have to go right for them, and a lot of stuff is going to have to go wrong for the other 2 teams. But before we move on to the Carolina Panthers, if you liked the video at all, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by next year. Without further ado, the Carolina Panthers. I know it may seem I'm off my rocker and you'd be right, but I'm going to explain my reasoning for this. I think Dave Canellis has done wonders for careers like Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, and we saw what happened in 2024 with Bryce Young. First, let's address the giant elephant in the room. 2023, his rookie season, and half of 2024 was not good at all. He even got benched, but this was the changing point. After his benching, in the final 10 games, he had 2,104 yards, 15 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. That's really promising for a second-year quarterback.
That's good.
In the first 7 weeks of 2024, he only had 1 big-time throw, according to Pro Football Focus. And from week 8 onward, he led all quarterbacks with 26 big-time throws. And that's a massive leap in aggression and confidence. His PFF passing grade was one of the lowest from week 1 to 9. He was at 51.5 and then jumped up to 86.4 from week 10 to week 18. It was the 7th highest among all quarterbacks during that span. That's really good. He demonstrated growth. He demonstrated a lot of clutch play, improved accuracy, and decision making. And it has a lot to do with Brian Canellis, who simplified the offense for Bryce Young. And now we've seen what works with Bryce Young, and the Panthers spent a lot of time in the offseason trying to upgrade their offense. They still have their number 1 receiver, Xavier Legette, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis are going to make that offensive line better. And then they drafted Tetairoa McMillan. He's a big athletic receiver from Ole Miss, a huge catch radius, and a great red zone target. We'll see how he plays. I know there's a lot of questions about Bryce Young. Was it just a fluke? I am honestly not 100% sure, but I am hoping for his sake that it's not and that he continues to succeed. Now, Legette did have only 49 receptions and 497 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did show a lot of promise in some points of the season, but it just wasn't there.
Soon.
But their real strength last year on offense was their running game with Chuba Hubbard. He rushed for nearly 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns with a 4.8 yards per carry. And with that improved offensive line, hopefully he'll have more yards. And Jonathan Brooks, who is injured and hasn't lived up to his potential yet, could show off that in 2024. We'll see what happens. And while there's promise on the offense, there's a lot of glaring holes. questions with Bryce Young and the defense. Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Milan were drafted. They have high upside according to experts. The bad news is they traded away top pass rusher Brian Burns. They had the third fewest sacks in the NFL, only 32. They're going to have to rely on these rookies and whoever else is on the defensive line and on the edge. And beyond JC Horn, who has been injured, they don't really have anyone else. I mean, they did re-sign Mike Jackson Jr., my bad. But his coverage grade was 55.9. They need someone else to step up, maybe Charles Smith-Wade, I'm not sure. They don't really have a tight end outside of Tommy Tremble, who's only showed flashes that he can be something. But overall, I don't think these problems are insurmountable. I think it's something that they can work towards. And just like the rest of the NFC South, they have an easier schedule. So this team could win 8 or 9 games. That's their ceiling. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons win 8 or 9 games or less, the Panthers take the division. But their floor is pretty low. It's like 5, 6, 4 games at the least that they'll win if they just don't click. Bryce Young isn't the answer, and the defense continues to struggle. So what do you think about my NFC South prediction? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell if you like NFL analysis, fantasy football stuff. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by next year. Next week, we tackle the NFC South, the last team in the NFC, and we'll move on to the AFC. I'll see you in the next video.